Forgot my tea. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another live stream with me, Charlie Lambden. This is Moving Home with Charlie. This evening's is going to be a bit of a weird and unusual one. It's a bit of a ramble, but the goal here is to just help everyone understand a bit more about the reality of the housing market. So whether you are buying or thinking of buying or wondering whether you should buy or rent or selling or moving or wondering why you can't sell your home or wondering what you should be bidding and what's overpaying or not overpaying. And it's just so terrifying seeing everything. And Charlie keeps making it sound like you shouldn't buy a house. But then he says you should buy a house. But then he says you shouldn't unless you should. So this evening is about answering some of the most common questions I get and some of the most recent questions that I've had. I'm going to go through, I've done videos on all these things before, right? But they go back a year or two. I'm going to recover it. But how to not overpay. I've done a video on that before. Look it up, Moving Home with Charlie, how to not overpay when you're offering. How to choose your agent when you're on the market and you're with an agent and you're struggling and you're not getting anywhere. And you know you need to choose agents, but who do you choose? Why mortgages and more mortgage lending and relaxed lending rules helps some people buy a home, but hurts other people's chances of buying a home. What to do about renegotiating, because if you've had a bad survey and you need to renegotiate, but you don't want to lose the house. And finally, how a market, any market, works. And this is actually a lot more helpful than it might sound. Anyway, how's everybody? Good evening, Roni, Alistair, Andrew, Nima, James. James Davis says, I'm in the process of buying. I know I'm overpaying, but it's next door to my mum and a lovely house. Okay, there you are. You see, if you know you're overpaying, but you can afford it and it's right for you, then it's not overpaying, as long as it doesn't get you into trouble. Marius Servant says, how can you not overpay if there are 20 families on the viewing day? Well, that's a very good question. And unfortunately, the hard truth is, if there are other people overpaying or paying more than you're comfortable paying, you have no choice but to walk away, unless you have considered the risks of overpaying and you know you're overpaying, but you accept those risks. Okay, I'm going to start by trying to explain how a market works in a way that I hope is helpful. So, in a marketplace where many of the same things are sold, if you have a very fast-moving commodity market, then there's a very precise price, and you know exactly what the price is. You go in and you buy at that price, or you go in and you sell at that price, and that's that, right? That is not how the housing market works, because first and foremost, there isn't a published today's price. If you want to buy a 3-bedroom semi-detached house today, this is the price. Imagine how great that would be. That is exactly what I'm working towards achieving with Best Agent, and that's why I haven't been doing as many videos recently. I'm working really hard on the whole Best Agent offering, the complete transaction online, starting from when you register to look for a house or register to find an agent, all the way through to completion, and to bring transparency to the housing market. This is actually what my everyday job is. Moving Home with Charlie is a part-time side thing that I do to help you guys out and also to build an audience and raise awareness of what I'm doing. And I've got a lot of new followers. All over the place, actually. I've got new followers. I've got, especially on X and on YouTube and on Instagram, and we're live on all of those things now. And I've got a big bunch of new followers on TikTok recently as well. Welcome to all of you guys. For those of you who are trying to figure out, all Charlie does is apparently talk the market down, but then he says we should buy. It's so confusing. What does he actually want? My stated goal since I launched this channel has been a home for everyone, right? That is the goal of this channel, is so that everyone can get a decent home. That's whether or not I achieve it, I've got no idea, but that is my career goal. And that would be much easier to achieve if there wasn't so much skullduggery in the housing market. And if you could eliminate all of the friction, both government-imposed friction like stamp duty and other regulations, as well as overvaluing and long sole agency contracts and all of these other things that get in the way, and bad conveyancing and dishonesty and all of these things that get in the way, there would be at least twice as many transactions per year. People would move more often. It would be easier to move. It would be cheaper to move. Social mobility would be better. And a lot more of the UK's 1.5 million long-term vacant homes would come into play. So why are you always talking the market down, Charlie? Why are you always saying that it's a terrible investment? Well, I speak as someone who made lots of money out of investing in property a long time ago, and it was sheer dumb luck, right place, right time, and a bit of nerve. And I bought and sold a number of properties, and I was a landlord, and I refurbished a property or two, in fact, and then that was before I got into the industry as a software provider to estate agents for both sales and lettings, and spent 20 years watching in large volumes the behavior of buyers and tenants and landlords and sellers. I personally designed, as a software architect, a product called Tenancy Manager that was an online management tool for tenants and agents and landlords, and gas safety certificates and maintenance repairs and rent repayments and agency fee deduction. And I could see, because we had thousands of properties, thousands of live tenancies in the system that I designed being used, where tenants and landlords could log in. I could see all of it, right? So, and the same on sales and lettings. I could see the offers coming in. I could see how many offers there were, how many viewings, how many offers, how long the deals took, how many deals fell through. So I've got all of this background, and I understand as well, if not better than anyone, what really goes on in the housing market. Now, there are a million of you armchair experts out there who think you know all the things wrong, and you know the answer. The answer is Bitcoin. Bitcoin fixes everything. Bitcoin fixes everything. Show me. Please fix something with Bitcoin, or stop saying it. Okay. Bitcoin has enormous potential, theoretically, to fix lots of stuff, but a lot needs to happen before that could happen. But until it's actually fixed anything, could you all stop saying Bitcoin fixes this like parrots? And show me something that it has fixed. Otherwise, just say Bitcoin could fix some stuff. But to say, anyway, that's a tangent, isn't it? Back to the market. Right. If you are in a rush and you're desperate and you haven't got time and you need to buy something, what happens? You always end up paying too much. You pay over the odds, don't you? If you've got lots of time to shop around and do comparisons and negotiate and walk away and play it cool, you've got a much better chance of getting a better price on something, haven't you? I mean, any of you who've bought and sold cars yourselves will know that. You know, the same car will sell for a different price depending on whether you sell it to a dealer or you sell it privately or you put it in an auction, and vice versa. So this is how marketplaces work, and profits are made in the marketplace by people who know how to game it and to buy low and sell high. Do you remember Tim Nice but Dim from the Fast Show? Buy high, sell low. Actually, that's what's happened to a lot of people recently. Because there isn't a set price for anything in the property market. It depends on so many liquid factors, including the seller's position. Is it divorce? Has someone died? Is there a baby on the way? Do they need to get to school area? All of these are factors in every single sale that creates a unique marketplace for each property. And what I try to teach on this channel, whether you are a buyer or a seller, and actually it's the same being a landlord or a tenant because the negotiations are the same, is that the market determines the price of a property, right? Whether it's for sale or to let. But how well the property is brought to the market, how well it's presented, and then how well the lengthy process is managed for you will make a massive difference to the actual price paid. For example, you're a seller, right? You've got 2 offers on your house. One, let's make it even better. 3 offers on your house. One offer is from a buyer who has something to sell, and theirs is the highest offer. Theirs is £300,000. They're offering you £300,000. Right? Your asking price is only £285,000. They're offering you £300,000 for your house because they really want it. It's perfect for them. It's right next door to their mum, etc. But they've got to sell their house, and their house is not on the market yet. They will sell it one day because they're definitely going to move, but they're offering you 300 grand. In reality, it's likely to take 6 to 12 months for that transaction to go through. Your second person offering is offering 275, and it's a first-time buyer. Sorry, 285, your actual asking price, first-time buyer, okay? And the first-time buyer, they haven't got their mortgage in place yet, but they love your house. They definitely want it. And it's a young couple, and they've got to get the survey, they've got to get their mortgage application, they've got to go through all those hoops, and it's going to take, realistically, 3 to 5 months. And your third offer is from a cash buyer offering 275, who says they've got everything lined up and they could exchange within 2 weeks. What is that property worth? Is it worth 275? Because it's worth what someone will pay, right? But the seller, which one does the seller choose? Do you wait a year to get 300,000? Do you roll the dice with the first-time buyer to hopefully sell within 6 months and get 285, your asking price? Or do you take the 275 from cash buyer that doesn't have to get a mortgage and can complete within 2 weeks? Right? If a house is worth what someone will pay, what's that house worth? You might say, well, that's worth 300,000, isn't it? Is it? Is the seller, the buyer offering £300,000 has got to sell a house? Can they guarantee that their buyer isn't going to pull out once they've found one? That buyer might fail on you, the £300,000 buyer, through no fault of their own, right? So is it worth £300,000 today on the day you accept it? Or a year from now if they complete? And what does that year of waiting cost you as a seller? I could go on and on like this, right? The market for each property is different depending on your situation as a seller and the buyer's situation and all kinds of things. And this is why, especially if you are moving against the clock, you need really experienced, really professional agents. And by the way, if you've ended up with 3 offers on a property, you've already got a good agent there, right? But a really, really good agent will get you 3 comparable offers, all of them pretty close, not much between them, right? In terms of, spoilt for choice, which one should we take? You know, and sometimes in those situations, it comes down to which buyer the seller likes the most, because the offers are all the same. They can all move straight away. Maybe they're all cash buyers. So it comes down to things as simple as this. If you're a buyer and finding time to view properties is hard because of work and maybe because of travel, viewing properties for you costs you real time and money. You've got to travel, maybe you've got to get a hotel stay for the night, you've got to book time off work. It's really genuinely expensive and time consuming to do viewings at all. Now, compare that with someone that lives locally, works for themselves, is flexible, and can view loads of properties, right? If you're the first kind of buyer, you are in a much, much more difficult situation when it comes to negotiating, okay? Because you're going to view fewer properties and you're more likely to view the ones that look like a bargain, and therefore there are going to be competing bidders. Whereas if you're someone that's local and can get round the drop of a hat to any viewing, etc., you're much more likely to be in the right place at the right time and get a better deal. So all of this is to say, right, that a property doesn't have a value until the transaction's gone through. But even then, the seller might have chosen to accept a lower. For example, right, another example, sellers who just decide, do you know what, I just want to go and put it in auction. Put it in auction. Is that the value of that house? Or have they sold it at trade price? If you go to one of those house buying companies, we guarantee to pay cash for your property, typically 20% below what they are going to sell it for. Did you get market value for your house? Or did you sell below? You sold below market value. Because maybe as a seller, you had life imperatives that compelled you to get it done right now. You know, maybe someone in your family has got a terminal illness and you're against the clock and you've got to move to be with them. You just need it done. So the point I'm trying to make here is that properties can go for plus or minus 10% around a central figure. I've taken a long time to make this point. I'm sorry. But if you understand that, like, let's just say that's what I'm going to call the central figure, right? Sometimes an agent will get people to overpay by 10% above that central figure. And sometimes you'll get a property for 10% below that central figure. So there's actually a 20% variance in what a property can sell for, depending on a long list of things. And this is the first thing that so many sellers get wrong. They assume that their house is worth the same no matter who sells it. And I hope if you've been listening to this for the last 17 minutes, you'll now go, okay, right, it's not just worth a given price, is it? Right? Even if you pay for a red book valuation, a professional lender's valuer survey, whatever you want to call it, and they give you a number, that doesn't guarantee that you will sell it for that. So understand that whether you're buying or selling or both, you are operating in this unique marketplace filled with emotional parties. That's what makes buying and selling a house unlike anything else you can buy or sell. Because people don't think straight and don't see straight when they're emotional. And moving house is emotional. It's often combined with things like divorce or death or forced financial sale because of debts. All of these different things can. So that is why, using my central figure here, right, and 10% above, 10% below, this is where a really, really good agent earns their money. They are hard to find because they are in the minority, and most agents aren't good enough to do this, right? 10%, a really good one will get you somewhere between 5 and 10% more than the central value that property might sell for. And a really bad agent might end up getting you 5 to 10% below what it's worth. Some of them will do that criminally. Some of them will abuse the trust of a seller and sell it cheap to a mate. And you've got to watch out for that. Yes, that still happens. I've heard of agents telling me of their bosses doing that within the last 12 months, right? It's despicable. That is tantamount to theft from that seller, and it still happens. So, okay, how does this help you all? This has been a right old ramble, hasn't it, already? Let me get to the questions. So Christopher Smith on X asked me in a post earlier today, I've watched most of your videos and they're great. Thank you, Chris. The thing I find most difficult is, what is a fair and final offer that shows you're serious and doesn't offend someone who has overvalued their home? I don't want to negotiate as I'll lose, but I don't want to walk away from the house. Okay, this is a very, very good question. What is a fair and final offer that shows you're serious and doesn't offend someone who's overvalued their home? Now, Christopher's question contains several factors that he shouldn't be thinking about and shouldn't be worrying about, okay? Because no matter what the circumstances, there's only ever one price you as a home buyer should offer. So what's a fair and final offer? It doesn't matter what's fair. I'll come on to that in a minute. Final offer, yes. It should be the first and final offer. That shows you're serious. I mean, if you are serious and you make your best offer, then there's nothing more you can do than that, other than make sure you've got your conveyancing, your mortgage broker, your decision in principle, your proof of funds, all of those things lined up. That's how to show you're serious, whatever the amount you're offering is. But you don't want to offend someone who's overvalued their home. There's nothing you can do about someone who's overvalued their home and is going to get upset about it. Okay? All you can do, even in that scenario, is make your first and final offer with all of those things attached to it, like I've explained in the past, like my offer email template. If you're new here, just go and Google MHWC for Moving Home with Charlie, offer email template. Okay, you'll find it. It'll come up. It'll be number one on Google. And in that, it explains how to make sure you've got a conveyancer, because your conveyancer can confirm that they have approved your source of funds for your deposit and that you are in a position to proceed with that transaction. And that means you don't have to reveal your actual finances to the agent. Another advantage of having got your conveyancer on board before you offer. Have your mortgage decision in principle, your fully credit checked name on it, lender's name on it, mortgage decision in principle. Say that you're going to buy your search pack on the day they accept your offer or the day they instruct their solicitors, if they haven't already done that themselves as sellers. But to come up with the amount, that is something that only you as an individual can do. Go back to my example of the cash buyer, the first-time buyer, and the seller, all three offering the same property as 275, 285, and 300. Those amounts were the maximum that those people could offer in their circumstances. That's what you should offer. But Charlie, you've told us that there's no money to be made in property investment. That's the next one I'm going to come on to, right? So how do we know what overpaying is? In the current climate, where house price growth, even as exaggerated by various indices, is lower than inflation, means you are buying a depreciating asset. So my point is that you won't make money in the way that we have in the last 40 years, right? The property profit party is over, but you still want to buy a home. I'm sorry, I'm going backwards and forwards between points. Let me finish the first point about the amount you should offer. The amount you should offer should be the amount that you will wish you had offered when you lose it to someone else who offered more than you. And you go, we should have paid that, shouldn't we? That is, to this day, the most common mistake buyers make. They find a home, they fall in love with it, they go in, they put in an offer below what they're actually willing to pay, which is the most common mistake buyers make, lose it, and then kick themselves and go, we would have paid that. That is why, if you're buying a home because you want to live in it, you should always make your first and final offer your maximum comfortable price, the price above which you would walk away, right? The price above which you will not go. And it will twist your brain thinking about this, because you'll come up with a number and go, yeah, well, no, we wouldn't pay more than 240. Definitely wouldn't pay 240. That's the maximum. We don't think it's worth more than 240. We're not paying more than 240. Right, okay, sorry to let you know, someone else has got it for 245. Well, we would pay 245. It's too late. Someone else has paid 245 now. You should have offered 245 first. But Charlie, you tell us not to overpay. If it's a comfortable amount that you're comfortable paying, it's not overpaying. Overpaying is a subjective and personal calculation. Okay? Two different buyers bidding on the same property could offer the same price. One's overpaying, one's not. One has overextended themselves with a 95% mortgage, scraped down the back of the sofa for every last penny to get their deposit, isn't going to be able to afford any maintenance on the property, and has got a 2-year discounted fix, after which they're not going to be able to afford the higher payment. That's one person. They're overpaying. They're overextending themselves. They're risking it, right? The other person's a cash buyer and they've got loads. They're buying a portfolio. They don't care. That person's not overpaying. See what I mean? The same price, two people offering the same price, one's overpaying and one's not. It is a personal, subjective thing. It is nothing to do with what you think the property is worth, right? What it's worth is different to everyone. It's worth more to some people than to others. That is why what agents do when they do it well is so important, because really good agents will make sure that your property gets multiple viewings at the same time to get you competing offers, and that's how you discover the best price the market will pay. And Amy, as Amy Brunel says, that is why an agent's useful. Now, the majority of people in this country think, well, I know what my house is worth. No, you don't. If you're sitting there watching this thinking, I know what my house is worth, no, you don't. You're not a mind reader. You don't know who's going to come and view it, and you don't know what their personal situation is or financial situation is, and you don't know how much they're going to like your house. Oh, but I spent 25 grand on the kitchen. The market doesn't care how much you spent on your kitchen. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. The market doesn't care. It will only matter how much it is worth to the individuals who come around to view it. So if you overprice it thinking, well, that's what it's worth, that's what it owes me, that's what I want for it, you're just wasting everyone's time, including your own. Price it at them, right? Central market value, 10% too high, 10% too low. Most of you will price it 20% too high. I'm not exaggerating. That's what's happening now. Most of you are completely out of touch with where the market for your home really is. That's not your fault, because the industry conceals what's happening and talks the market up. So I do not blame any sellers for thinking their home is worth more than the market would actually pay for it at the moment. That is not your fault. But yes, as Andrew Overman on LinkedIn says, the market decides what a home is worth. And that's why you have to let the market decide. So Christopher Smith on X, what's a fair and final offer that shows you're serious and doesn't offend anyone? It is the maximum amount you are willing to pay for that property in your circumstances, above which you would walk away, and you present your offer by email with all of the other parts of the offer attached to show you're serious. Right. Now I'm going to talk about why I rant on so much about why anyone pitching residential property in the UK as a sound investment is scamming you. It's not impossible to make money from the property market if you are a seasoned, experienced professional with the right contacts, you've been around the block a few times, and you know how to buy well, how to add value to a property, and then how to sell well. That it is possible, right? It is possible to make a profit from property if you're someone who knows how to identify a good candidate house that needs a refurb, and you do a quality refurb on which you can make a profit. There was a time when anyone could do that, buy a rundown old place, go in and do an amateur job of refurbing it and make money and think they're a genius. Those days have gone, right? House prices are flatlining at best and have been for a few years now. At the higher end of the market, they're coming down. As I did that video last week, there are places plenty of places in the country where house prices are already down 10, 12, 15%, 20% from their highs at certain levels. First-time buyer prices may be slightly higher in some areas than they were a year or two ago, but they're not shooting up, okay? And they're not going up faster than inflation either. So I kicked a bit of a hornet's nest with my posts on X about this. Charlie, you don't understand. I do. I've done it all myself. I've done it with cash. I have leveraged. I've been a landlord. I've got a cash yield. I've flipped properties. I've refurbished them and sold them. I've developed them. I've done it all. I promise you, I understand. And I have a background in the city where I was a derivatives broker, so I understand leverage and hedging and options and futures and currency. I get it. I really get it. I'm not going to make this video about all the reasons why, but to actually make money from property, the house price growth needs to go up faster than inflation, number one, plus your maintenance costs, which is about another 1%, number two. And if you're a landlord, plus enough to offset the risk of voids and sitting tenants and court costs. Okay. There are people today trying to sell their home to cash in their pension who bought maybe 20 years ago, who aren't getting as much as they thought and don't have the pension they thought they were going to have. In fact, they don't have enough of a pension. And I know this because I've had people tell me in the live chat, in comments on videos like this. So what are you saying, Charlie? Don't buy property? No. If you want to live in a home that you own, always buy a property. But what if prices go down? It doesn't matter as long as you're staying there, right? But you must try not to overpay so that you minimize any risks and losses, okay? If you're a cash buyer and you're buying your forever home and you're going to live there literally for the rest of your life, it doesn't matter what happens to house prices after you buy, right? It just doesn't matter. You need a place to live. Whether the market's going up, whether the market's going down, you need and you want a place to live. You don't want to have a mortgage. Buy a home. Don't overpay. That's just down to putting in the legwork and viewing enough to get a feel for what things are really worth and being in the right place at the right time when the right seller has had enough of trying to hold out for high price and decided to drop the price. And that's how I got my first ever property. I got 30% off the asking price of the first flat I ever bought. I was paying cash. It's because it's all I had. It was cheeky to even go and view it, but I viewed it and I made my offer. They tried to negotiate me up and I said, well, I would, but I can't. And they just accepted my offer because I was the only offer, right? So buy a home, depending on your personal financial circumstances, do your utmost to not overpay. If you've got 5 million quid in the bank and you're buying a little cottage in the country for 300 grand, does it matter if you overpay for it? No, doesn't matter. If you find one you fall in love with and you want it and you don't want to keep on viewing and viewing and viewing. But if you're not in a hurry and you're enjoying viewing, then don't. Do you see what I mean? It's personal. It depends on your personal position. But the people most at risk are the people, for example, like the ones who've bought Help to Buy in London within the last few years, right? If you bought Help to Buy in London the last 5 years, you're stuffed. You're in negative equity. If you went max mortgage, max Help to Buy, minimum deposit, you ain't going anywhere. You can't sell right now. And everyone told you it's a brilliant idea. Everyone told you house prices only go up. Up. You can't go wrong. Bricks and mortar, you can't go wrong. Safest houses. And where are you now? You're stuck. And now, hopefully, you're going to be happy living there for a long time. Or if you've got savings, you're going to have to sell for less than your mortgage is worth and dip into your savings to pay off the mortgage. Right. So that's why I push back against relaxing mortgage lending, because when they relax mortgage lending, it makes prices go up. It puts upwards pressure on prices. And whilst that might help a few more people who are now going to get a mortgage that couldn't get into a home, it takes house prices further away from a large number of people who now can't get a home. That's why we are in the mess we're in. And to those of you who go, but Charlie, you don't understand. It's always been this way. As long as you hold long term, you'll make money. The past doesn't equal the future. And the only reason house prices have done what they've done in the last 20 years is because of artificial government stimulus. Okay? Is that artificial government stimulus still here now? No, it's all gone. Help to Buy is gone, quantitative easing has stopped, and interest rates are no longer 1%. All of those things that all helped house prices go up have all gone. And before that, they had relaxed mortgage lending criteria that made house prices go up. That's gone as well, although they're threatening to bring that back. But anyone who thinks that the next 10 years are going to be the same as the last 10 or 20 years without all those stimulus, you're just not thinking straight. You're not thinking straight, right? And that's before we even get into what the economy's doing and jobs. And I mean, massive public sector layoffs starting to be drip fed and announced. 9,000 over here, a few more over there. Lots and lots of public sector job cuts coming on top of the private sector that's just about next month to have its employers' contributions costs go up. That's going to hit me. So yeah, Andrew Overman again says, relaxing mortgage lending creates false inflation in the market and further exacerbates the problem. That's right. Correct. Some people go, oh, but having property is better than having cash. Well, cash doesn't cost you 1% a year in maintenance. And yes, that is what it costs to maintain a property over the long term. And if you don't maintain a property, it won't be worth what it would be if you had maintained it, which is why so many sellers at the moment are thinking it's what they paid for it. They've lived in it for 10 years. It's all lived in and, wear and tear. They haven't done anything about that. And they aren't factoring in the wear and tear to what was lovely and fresh and spanking new when they got it and now is a bit knackered and worn out, like me. Do we have any questions, by the way? I will take some questions. I've got another. Yeah, Andrew Dennis makes the point. In this market, it's very hard to value a house. There's no need to value a house. I'm about to explain that way. I'm about to explain why. But there's never any need to value a house. I promise you, I can hear you all going, what are you talking about, Charlie? Of course you have to. No, you don't. If you want to move, the only way to value your house is to see what offers you get. Everything else is guesswork. So the next question I want to answer was from someone who sent me a message saying that they've gone on at too high a price with their agent. They realize that they've been overvalued and lied to and tricked. They want to change agent, but none of the agents they met inspired any confidence in them at all. Right. This is arguably the hardest thing. I'm just going to put a link up on screen. Hang on a second. For those of you who are trying to find an agent at the moment, just put a link in the live chat there. Have a crack at that. That's my website, Best Agent. It is the agent finding service. We don't recommend any agents. It's a completely neutral way of finding a local agent, right? We make no guarantees of who you're going to find, but what it does do is it tends to get responses from the better kind of agents because it's a very, very different way of approaching agents. It's you putting your details into Best Agent and it goes out to the nearest 20 agents and puts the ball in their court to come back to you. But they have to come back to you through Best Agent, right? So we don't give them your contact information. So you won't get spammed by any of them. They don't get your number. They don't get your email address. They have to respond through Best Agent. A bit like on Airbnb, if you're talking to someone about staying in their place, you can communicate with them through Airbnb, but they don't get your contact information unless you book. But I'm specifically now answering the question from, I think it was Peter, member of the private live movers Q&A, who approached me and said, what do I do? I've overpriced my house. I've shot my bolt too soon. It's gone on there. It's way overpriced. How do I find the right agent? Okay. Without being with you and looking locally, it's very, very hard for me to do this. But generally speaking, an owner-managed agent or an independent freelance or franchisee self-employed agent has a lot more skin in the game than a corporate agent does, like literally 10 times more. A corporate agent will get 10% of the commission that the company earns from selling your house, whereas a self-employed agent will get 100% of it. So they're literally 10 times more incentivized to actually get your home sold for you. And therefore, they're less likely to overvalue it. Now, that doesn't mean they're all good. There are plenty of very nice, very willing, and friendly agents out there. They're just still not very good. They're not very experienced. They haven't been well trained. The question to ask each agent you speak to is, what do you do to ensure we get competing buyers? Right? What do you do? What is your strategy to make certain that we get enough viewings that we end up with competing offers? Because that is the only way to find out what your house is worth. And that's the question. If you don't do anything else, just that's the one question to ask each agent. And they might start talking about values. Just say, no, I don't want to talk about values. I don't want to talk about values. That's what got me into this shit in the first place, was talking about values, listening about values. That's what agents do. They get you talking about values, and it's all just a fugazi. It's bullshit. It doesn't exist when you just talk about values, because it's literally a meaningless conversation, right? I say to agents that I work with, talk process, not prices. Nobody knows what your house is going to sell for, not even the agent, right? There are 3 prices for your house: what you think it's worth, what the agent says, and what the market will pay. The only one that matters is what the market will pay. So ask every agent you talk to, what would you do to make sure we get competing bidders? Oh, wow. Veronica, exchanged today after 15 months since my house was put on the market. Chain was volatile. What a relief. Thank you, Charlie, for your advice. Oh, what a massive relief for you, Veronica. Congratulations. 15 months. What an odyssey. Hey, Sasha. We have a celebrity viewer in the live chat. How you doing? You haven't replied to my text. Reply to my text. Yeah, and don't forget Stiggy. Yeah, there might be some Stiggy later this week. Might even be another surprise guest later this week. Abdul Shahid says, would love to see a collab with Sasha and Charlie. Well, there's an idea. I wonder if we can make that happen. I'd love that too. But back to Veronica. 15 months since your house put on the market. Right. Sellers watching this who think selling a house is easy. You just stick it on Rightmove and you get a buyer, and that's it. 15 months it's taken to sell. So Fleshwolf says, Sasha's too optimistic for Charlie. I don't think that's true. Sasha says, didn't watch the whole thing. Is the too long, didn't read. Sell your house, buy an Airstream, and go and buy a vineyard in Southern Europe to live on. Is that about right? Yeah. Pretty much. Hey, nice to have you on the channel, Sasha. Yeah, so, okay, let's see. Do we have other questions? Fernando Pistana says, will this be worse than the 1989 housing crash? This particular housing market that we're in, and the housing decline and the housing slide for large parts of the country, is unlike previous downturns in that it is a much slower one. It is a slide, not a crash. It's been sliding since the summer of 2022. I don't care what they say about the national average. That's just bullshit. You know, the ONS just literally revised down the average house price by 7 or 8% overnight last month. It's a joke there. So, and because of what's happening with the economy, and lots of other things, and the cost of living and real inflation, and people's ability to afford houses and maintenance and bills, I think we're going to continue to see house prices sliding for some considerable time yet, at least the rest of this year and probably most of next year as well. That's what I think. Now, I actually think that a house price slide is good news. This slow, gradual slide is good news. It's less disruptive than a crash. The only people a crash benefits are first-time buyers waiting to pounce, right? That's the only people, no one else. It doesn't benefit the economy. It doesn't benefit anything else. If house prices ease in proportion to wages and come down gradually so that housing affordability is gradually improving, as it has been for the last few years, even with higher interest rates, that is a good thing. And I think for that reason, I think actually first-time buyers, it's going to continue. If you're someone lucky enough to keep your job and you are getting above inflation pay rises, then housing... So I've only just seen some of your older questions, sir. Which country you're moving to? I'm just reading some of the other comments here. Yeah, Bosbos 47 talks about mass job cuts because of AI. Yeah, that's not going to help the jobs market, is it? Whatever it does do or doesn't do, apart from hunting us down and killing us all, it's going to be taking more jobs than it creates. Although it will create some jobs. It will create some jobs. Right. K-Art says, hello, Charlie. Just had a lovely Italian in Liverpool. Yum. And Jim Bob says, stop eating Italians. They've got to live too. Okay. Now, have I said everything? Oh, yeah, there's other stuff to talk about as well. Is that for this video or another one? I think it's for another one. I'm going to call it a night there, guys. I'm going to call it a night. It's been nice talking to you. I hope this has been helpful. I hope I've improved your chances of moving, whether you're buying or selling. Remember what I said about how the market works. What I want to do is I want to help buyers buy well, right? Which means if you're a buyer watching my channel and this is a seller and they've got the house, the value of the house there, you get it for less because they haven't brought it to market properly, right? But if you're a seller watching my channel, I hope to help you get higher than that central price by going with a good agent, getting competing bids, and getting a higher price for your property in that way. And oh, that's a very good question. M asks, hi Charlie, selling a flat with a few issues. Don't want to hide it, but should I? Now, if you think about it, the only person who's going to buy your flat will eventually know about all of the issues. And so if you ever try to hide issues of the property, all you're doing is increasing the chance of the deal falling through and wasting a lot of your own time and your buyer's time. The right buyer will not be put off by the issues. Your issues are going to mean that the price is lower. So as long as you price it appropriately and put the issues up front and center, you're going to sell, right? Never try and hide it. That's someone who told me that they ever valued the house was that one of the things said is it's right next to a pub, and in the photograph and in the details, it doesn't. You can't see that. You don't mention it. Well, that's going to put a lot of people off, and there's no point in hiding it. What you should do is go, the house is right next to the Coach and Horses. That will appeal to some people. And if you get people inquiring to come and view that property who've seen that, they're going to love that it's next to a pub. They're not going to get there and go, oh God, it's next to a pub. It just wastes everyone's time if you don't show everything, warts and all. I really mean it, warts and all. Everything that a buyer is going to either see on a viewing or find out through the process of a survey, there's no point in hiding it. There's just no point in hiding it. I'm going to tell you a story just to back this up, right? A very old friend of mine He very unfortunately had a horrific car accident that put him in the wheelchair for the rest of his life. But he went onto a dating app, and on his profile, he didn't, in his photograph, he didn't mention the wheelchair. He didn't put in his photograph. It wasn't mentioned in his profile. And most of the times he went out on a date through this app, the dates would turn up and be shocked and leave. Not necessarily straight away, but it never worked out very well, basically. And I remember talking to him about it, just going, why? You know they're going to see it. Why would you hide it? Put it in your advert. Make your profile picture a picture of you in your chair. Talk about it. Because then the people who want to have a date with you are going to want to have a date with you. And he did. And he changed it. And he was inundated because he was actually a very handsome, intelligent, funny guy. And he did brilliantly on the dating app by putting the fact that he was in a wheelchair on the app. And everyone who came on a date with him knew he was in one and didn't care. It's the same thing. I know that's a sort of quite extreme example, but it just makes the point, right? Hiding things that people are going to... Yeah, here we are. Ritori91 says, don't hide property issues. I had to pull out on discovering issues with my flat purchase, and I'd paid 70% solicitor's fees. Great question. Saeed Majid says, should I sell my house and be a cash buyer so I can be in with a better chance of getting the property of my dreams? In a word, yes, if that option is open to you. If you are selling and buying, if you're in the fortunate enough position to buy first and then sell your other property, that's the most luxurious position to be in, because then you haven't got to worry about a chain. You can make a chain-free purchase, move, and then put your old place on the market. Now, that option is not within reach for most people. Some people use bridging finance to do that. Ultra risky in this market. When house prices are rising strongly, bridging finance can work out well, but in this market, I would not do that. If selling and completing your sale before you buy is an option that's open to you, it is what I would do, because you will sell faster for more by not being in a chain, and you will then be in a position as a buyer, you'll be in a totally proceedable, unencumbered position as a buyer to be a chain-free buyer as well. And so both of those scenarios are likely to get a better price as a seller, selling a chain-free property, and you're going to get a better deal as a buyer if you can move more quickly. So if it's within the realms of possibility to sell and then buy, I would always recommend that option. Michelle says, I bought a house with a long history of water ingress. The surveyor didn't see it. The estate agent knew and never told me. It was horrendous. Now, this is a good reminder. When you buy a new build from a company, those come with a guarantee. And as a business, those businesses are legally required to make sure you're aware of everything. And if they don't, you've got some comeback and recourse. But when you buy a property privately, a second-hand property someone's lived in, the agent isn't the person selling it to you. They are the facilitator. They are the broker. And it is caveat emptor, buyer beware. You are responsible for checking everything, just in the same way as if you were buying a second-hand car privately with no warranty. It's up to you. You got to test drive it, find it, look under the bonnet, check the tires, all that kind of stuff. You can't take it back if you're not happy afterwards. So that's why you must be ultra thorough. Agents are not, and I'm not saying this is good, they are not legally required to divulge everything that they know about a property. Now, there is material information that they are required to divulge, and all agents are supposed to follow the trading standards rules and make sure that all material information is included in the marketing. And guess what? Most agents don't do it. Why? Because most sellers don't have that information. If you got your property contract ready and brought it to market, exchange ready, then you would have all the material information for the agent. But Michelle, yeah, whether or not you actually might have a claim against the surveyor, that's a different question. It depends whether you got what level survey you got and that kind of stuff. But if the surveyor missed it, maybe there's recourse there. NS says, unfortunately for me, being a cash buyer is not as easy as expected. I agreed to estate agent amount, and then they try and get another 10 grand from me. As I sold last year, January, I still haven't bought yet. So this is another reason for always doing the email offer, your first and final offer, the price above which you walk away. And with certain estate agents, being a cash buyer puts you at a disadvantage because they don't tell the sellers, even though they're legally required to. This is why, again, make your offers an email and ask by email for confirmation that they have forwarded your offer to the seller. And you can remind them, could you please confirm that as per the legal requirements, you have passed my offer on to the seller? I really am going to stop now. Thanks, guys. It's been fantastic. Nice talking to you. I'll see you tomorrow evening, Wednesday nights, usual. And hope this was helpful. Thanks, guys. See you the next one. Bye-bye.